What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made this. Beautiful, delicious, smoky, tender, porky, juicy, amazing smoked pulled pork on a pellet grill. Turned into a beautiful pulled pork sandwich topped with some homemade coleslaw. Coming up. This is a pork butt. Pat it dry. And what I got here is a pork butt, just your standard Randall pork butt. Picked this up at my local grocery store. It is in fact bone-in. It is skinless, and just a standard regular old pork butt. But when I was at the store, I was looking through the pile of these they had, and all of them were missing a fat cap on top. So I'm not sure if that's a new thing that they're doing at HEB, but if possible, I would prefer a full fat cap instead of just this half one, but you know, it still should work out just fine. Anyone at the grocery store shopping for a piece of pork to make pulled pork with, you have two main options here in the States, which is one, the Boston butt, the pork butt, which is the true shoulder of the pig. And then usually right next to them they have the pork picnic roast, which is more the bicep and the elbow area. And they're both great for making pulled pork, but the picnic roast is a little bit leaner, has a bit tougher muscles, you've got more bones in there, and they're usually skin on, which is a really fun cut to play around with, especially on the Chud box. But for making classic barbecue pulled pork, the Boston butt is what you're after. Nice and fatty. And I prefer bone in, just because there's not that weird pocket where it got deboned. But a boneless one will work out just fine. And when getting this thing ready to throw on the old barbecue pit, there is very little you need to do. In fact, you could just throw this on as is with no knife work, but it's always good to give it a little once over, make sure there's nothing hanging off, no flaps or anything like that. There's also a gland right back here that a lot of people like to take out. Not the end of the world if you don't. I usually don't, honestly, but since I'm here with a knife, might as well. Make for a slightly better sandwich eating pulled pork at the end of the day. But other than that, if there's anything really thin like that, you could just kind of round it off just so it doesn't get too crispy, but really not much to do. A lot of people do like to come through and score the fat cap, and I'm not really a big fan of that. And I think the thought process there is that if you do crosshatch at the top, it'll expose more meat, so your seasoning will penetrate the meat and not just the fat cap. But we're making pulled pork, so it's all going to be mixed up and shredded together anyway, and we're going to taste it and adjust for seasoning at the end. So I don't really see much point to doing that. And also I just hate the way it looks when it gets that checkerboard pattern on top. Not for me, not going to do it. And our rub of choice today is some good old-fashioned Chuds BBQ SPG. I use this rub for all the barky barbecue cuts, like a brisket, a beef rib, or a pork butt. A lot of black pepper in there should give us a nice brisket-like bark on this thing, but you could use whatever seasoning you like. And we're just gonna go on with a nice healthy coating of this stuff. Really can't overdo it with a rub like this on a big chunk of pork. Like this one. No need for a binder, but you can use one if you want. But we're just gonna keep it pretty simple today, folks. Making some classic barbecue pulled pork, which is definitely probably the best thing to start out with if you're new to barbecue, because we're not really going for a sliceable texture on this, which kind of takes time and experience to really get right on something like a brisket. But this is pulled pork, so if it's too tight, you can always just chop it up. And if it's overcooked, it'll still be really good and juicy. Flipping it over, top and bottom, and please, folks, don't forget the sides. That would be a rookie move, especially with the pork butt. Don't forget the sides. And that is looking pretty much perfect to me. But of course, if you did want to go on with a little extra secret salt, I wouldn't be mad about that. We're gonna just do a little dusting, because it tastes really good. Beautiful. Now, some of you eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that it is nighttime out here, and that is because today we are going to try a technique that I've long seen but never tried, which is the low and slow overnight pellet grill cook, which seems like a pretty awesome idea, you know? That's the beauty of pellet grills versus any other pit, is the set it and forget it ability. And honestly, the idea of cooking pork while I'm asleep just seems pretty awesome, and a good technique to have on hand if it does in fact work out, you know? Friday night, throw one of these on for lunch on Saturday, completely stress-free, and if I'm asleep, I'm not going to be looking. So as far as looking and cooking is concerned, this is a pretty great idea. I am a little bit concerned though, because this is episode, 3 of the pellet grill series, and I still haven't got that thing completely dialed in to where I'm confident just leaving it for hours on end. And it does seem to cook a little bit hotter and faster than I anticipate, so I'm really hoping I don't come out here in the morning and this thing is just turned into a piece of charcoal, but I'm pretty confident. It's a fatty, very forgiving piece of meat, and I'm going to keep the temps really low and slow, which will accomplish a few different things. One, it'll make sure that this doesn't get too hot and burn up on us. And two, pellet grills seem to run a lot smokier at lower temperatures as opposed to high ones. So for this cook, I think I'm gonna go at 180 degrees all night long. No smoke tube, just because it's gonna be probably 10 hours on that pit. So we should end up with some really nice bark, some really tender pork, and some good smoke flavor, but I do not know. This is the first time doing this, and it should be a pretty fun experiment. So I've got Jeremy here fired up to 180 degrees, got plenty of smoke going. Everything went smoothly this time upon startup, which was great. And on we go with our big old pork booty here. I'm aiming the money muscle side going this way, and the bone aiming this way because it seems to be a little bit hotter right here, or at least it was on the rack of pork ribs. And here it shall sit. Really testing out some Barbecue Delight oak pellets today. Definitely want to make sure that this thing is topped off because I'm not going to be looking at this for a long time. I will say, I kind of like this whole shooting at night thing, you know? It's not super hot, no birds or dogs or traffic, no flies. That's always nice. Maybe I'll just start a nocturnal barbecue channel. That'd be kind of fun. I'm going to go ahead and stick this RFX probe thermometer dealie in here, mostly just so I can keep an eye on the cook. So if something goes wrong, maybe we can track it down. And I was also looking at this thing the other day, and I forgot that there is a grease trap underneath this thing, and it was completely full after that beef rib cook. So today I was thinking about it, and I'm gonna mitigate the mess a little bit by going in with one of these foil pan right underneath, because this is gonna render out a whole bunch of fat, and I'd rather have it in here for easy cleanup than just send it through the pit, making it even dirtier. Which is yet another convenient factor of using a pellet grill, because I'm rarely cooking on a top rack in any of my other cookers, you know what I mean? I suppose I could pull the grates out of an offset and put something underneath it, but that's not really practical. So pork butt is cooking away at 180 degrees, which I think should work out just fine, because as long as it doesn't get above 180, it shouldn't overcook. It might dry out a little bit, depending on how long I sleep, but I don't know, I guess we're gonna find out. So I'll see y'all in the morning. Tomorrow later, this cook has gone very much according to plan, or at least it would seem that way. Pit is still running strong, smoke is in the air, still holding at 180 degrees. But let's take a look at that pork butt. Ooh, got some really good color on there, definitely building up a good bark. Looking pretty juicy, nothing's looking too burnt or crispy or anything like that. And looks like we got some good smoke color and hopefully flavor on there. So I came out this morning at about 7:30 to check on this thing, and it was rocking at 150 degrees internal, which is great. Honestly, a little bit lower than I was expecting, but then again, it is a 10-pound pork butt, and we're cooking at 180. But I think that's a good thing, because I'd rather undercook it at this stage than overcook it, because there's no saving that. And two, at these lower, slower temperatures, we're gonna get even more smoke flavor on there. But I let it push on, and it's now 10:30 in the morning, and it's rocking 169 degrees. Nice. And it's definitely taking a bit to get through that stall, but I think we are there. And as for the Yoder, that's what the graph looks like. Pretty consistent right at that 180 mark. A little ebbs and flows, but that is to be expected with the pellet grill. And all in all, I'm liking this method. Could not be any easier than this. I don't think I've ever had a pork butt at 170 degrees at 10 in the morning before. So at this point, we've got a couple of options. I could wrap it right now, I could bump the temps right now, or I could just let it truck on its current trajectory. And I think I'm gonna do that. But you totally could wrap at this stage. I'm just a little bit worried that it's gonna collect too much juices and kind of sog out the bottom, which isn't the end of the world, but I'm gonna let it go probably up to 175, 180 before we bust out the old foil boat, which gives us plenty of time to knock out a quick coleslaw. And just like that, all diced up, all julienned up, we've got some lovely cabbage, sliced super thin on the mandolin, as well as some red onion and some julienne carrots. And that julienne peeler really does come in handy. Thank you, Brian Lagerstrom, for the tip on that. And also the pro tip on removing some of the moisture from this veg, kind of like you would in a kimchi or something. We're gonna go in with a whole bunch of kosher salt, as well as some sugar, which is not only gonna season this veg all the way throughout, but it's also gonna dry out a lot of extra moisture, so we don't end up with a soupy coleslaw, and nobody wants that. As for carrot, onion, cabbage ratios, it's completely up to you. I kind of just went by color with the carrot, and not too much red onion, you know? I don't want it to be super oniony, but I think the little sharpness and sweetness from the onion will be very nice. Just trying to work this in, make sure it is evenly dispersed. So now I'm gonna set this aside for a little bit to let all that salt and sugar start working on the veg. And after about 30 minutes, that is looking pretty good. Definitely got some water in the bottom, looking wilted down a little bit. So now we need to get all that water out of there. And you could pap this dry, you could try pouring it all out, but it's a really convenient time to bust out the salad spinner that you got for Christmas. In we go. And we're just gonna spin this until all that water is extracted. And then back into the bowl we go. And what's left behind is a whole bunch of water that we don't need, making our coleslaw nice and soupy. And as far as the coleslaw dressing goes, we're gonna keep it pretty simple today, starting with some mayonnaise, to which we're gonna add some Dijon mustard, some apple cider vinegar, celery seed, white sugar, and some freshly cracked black pepper. And just get that all nice and mixed up. And now, little by little, we're gonna add this until it has reached our desired consistency. And just like that, our coleslaw is done. And for the record, that small head of cabbage gave us 2 pints of coleslaw. Back over at the pit, our pork butt has come up to about 178 degrees. So it's time to wrap it up. And the wrap method of choice for me now and has always been the foil boat. And the pork butt really is the perfect contender for the foil boat because it's got a big fat cap on top. Anything with a fat cap facing up is a great contender for the foil boat. It's also going to speed the cook up a little bit because the foil will help insulate it. It'll also collect juices which will braise and kind of confit the bottom, making sure that's nice and tender. The fat cap will continue to render and get that nice crispy bark, which will add some great texture to our pulled pork. And because the top is staying exposed, we'll get extra smoke on there, which I think is always a plus, especially on a pellet grill. Beautiful. Nothing to it, folks. If there's any thin or crispy edges, you can really cover those up, but mostly just trying to get the sides and the bottom, leaving this top exposed. And we still got a ways to go by the feeling of this thing. Feeling pretty crispy. So back on the pit we go. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on in the opposite formation that it was in before, just for even cooking. Probably just gonna leave this pan in there in case we pop a hole in this or something. I bumped the temps up to 225 degrees, which should help speed this cook up and get the fat rendering a little bit more. And we're just gonna keep an eye on temps. And at this point, I'm really hoping that 225 is gonna help speed up this cook and render that fat down even quicker and climb up to about 200 degrees. But I do tend to finish pork butts pretty hot. On the offset, I usually get it up to about 300 at this stage. So we're gonna keep an eye on it, see how quickly those temps rise, but we might even bump it up to 250 here in a little bit. But at this point, we're cooking with feel, because when it probes tender, it'll be tender, regardless of the temp. So we'll check back in a little bit. So it is approaching 2 p.m. right now, meaning we are about 14 hours into this pork butt cook, which is a pretty long time for a pork butt. I think typically on the offset, I do them around 8 to 10 hours. So we're not too far out of the realm here, but it does mean that we probably could have bumped the temps up to 200 for the overnight cook. And it would appear we're now making dinner instead of lunch. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and bump the temps up to 250 degrees. Taking a look at it, it's looking good. It's about 190 internal right now, and we're definitely starting to get that squishy fat render that we're after, but still feeling a little bit tight. And in other news, I just decided to take a look at the pellet supply because I haven't looked yet, and that was a mistake because we were almost down completely to the auger, which you definitely don't want to do on one of these things. So I just had to make an emergency run to the grocery store to get another bag of pellets, and it does seem a bit unnecessary to use an entire 20-pound bag of pellets to cook a pork butt, but hopefully it'll be worth it. It is now 3 p.m., hour 15, and this pork butt is finally done. Looking nice and barky, darkened up quite a bit. Foil boat did its job. And it's super easy to tell when it's done because it just pokes really nice and tender. It's mostly around the bone that took a while to finish, but off this thing comes to rest. Ow! And resting a pork butt is not really as serious as it would be on a brisket or something like that. Not really waiting for it to get any more tender. Just it's 203 or 4 degrees inside, and it's gonna be really hot. So we're basically just gonna let it cool down so we can shred it. But looking nice and barky, nice and pillowy. Ooh. Yeah, smells really good too. And after a nice long rest and cool down, this thing has come down to 150 degrees internal, and it's time to see if it is in fact tender. Do love that bark though. Yup, that's tender. Ooh, still toasty. Bone comes out nice and clean. That's always a good sign. Save that for some pork stock. A little bit crispy on these kind of lean edges, but at the same time, pulls right apart. So now we're gonna go through, break up this bark, make sure it's all evenly distributed and make sure all that fat is broken up. But I'm liking how this is looking. You know, it's still got good texture to it. You can see the smoke ring on that pork too, which is great. And it's not turning into complete mush, which is always a good sign. Keep an eye out for weird pieces of cartilage. The smoke ring on some of these pieces is just crazy. Look at that, looks like pastrami. So far pulling up pretty normally. There are a few pieces of bark that are a little tough and stringy, and I think that's probably that money muscle cut where the fat cap was removed and it just got blasted a little hard. So that's kind of a bummer, but I don't blame the pellet cooker for that. But if we want it to be even more juicy, we used a foil boat, so we got all these rendered fats and juices in here that we can just kind of, oops, oh no. That's just pure flavor. That'll be the beginning of our sauce. And speaking of sauce, I do want to add a Eastern Carolina style vinegar pepper sauce, but before we do that, I do want to give this a little taste just to see what it's like on its own. Dude, oh yeah. That is fantastic. Smoke flavor is there, incredibly tender and juicy, obviously. Good seasoning on that too. I mean, what's not to like here, folks? It's some classic smoky pulled pork. It's been a minute since I made one of these. Succulent, to say the least. Oh, that had a good piece of bark in it. So flavorful. Glad I added that secret salt, because that is fantastic. But for our quick and easy sauce, into our quart container here, we're gonna go into some Texas Pete hot sauce. About a half cup, some red chili flakes, probably about a tablespoon, same amount of some white sugar, some freshly cracked black pepper, And then some apple cider vinegar. Super basic, tangy, little bit spicy sauce. I'm gonna throw in a pinch of salt as well, for good measure. And just give that a nice little shake. And onto the pork we go. A little bit goes a long way with this stuff, but the added heat and acidity really helps cut through the richness of all this pork. I made a ridiculous amount of pulled pork. Look at that, we got pulled pork mountain. Just tasting and adjusting at this point, folks. Salt levels are actually perfect on this already, which is great, but that's kind of the beauty of pulled pork, is you can really dial it in at the end. But as good as this pulled pork is by itself, I am in the mood for a classic barbecue pulled pork sandwich. Starting with a beautiful bun. A beautiful toasted homemade bun, followed by a healthy mound of our pulled pork. Make sure to get some pieces of bark in there for optimal flavor. And on top of that, some of our lovely homemade coleslaw. Super simple sandwich, but sometimes that's all you need, folks. And then top bun goes on. Beautiful. Now, it may have been a real mission to get to this point. We're talking, 18 hours of cooking and resting and waiting. But I gotta say, it's a pretty good looking spread. Big old mound of pulled pork with our homemade coleslaw and this lovely sandwich. And I think it's time to dive on in. Starting out, let's go for some of this pulled pork just by itself, now that it's all doctored up. That is just absolutely fantastic. It's rich, it's tender, the bark is there, the texture is there. You got that Texas style brisket-like bark on there, which is always super flavorful. Fat is rendered. It's smoky, quite pleasantly smoky actually, so I guess the low and slow overnight has its benefits when it comes to getting the best smoke flavor out of those pellets. Definitely not the most convenient cook I've ever done, but then again, it actually is, because I didn't have to do anything. It just took a while. Gotta go back. The acidity in there too with a little bit of heat. Very nice bite. Honestly, this is the first time on the Pellet Grill series where I know for a fact that this would genuinely fool me if I got it at any Texas barbecue joint. There's nothing about this that screams it came off of a pellet grill. That is just lovely. But what's pulled pork without a big, beautiful sandwich? Am I right, folks? That was phenomenal. I mean, come on. That slaw adding a little more acidity and that texture and some freshness, that is just beautiful. And on a big homemade bun too, can't go wrong with that. Just like a lot of other things coming off the pellet grill, I think this is just perfect for the whole family. It's not punching you in the face with smoke flavor. Like, if I did a pork butt for 16 hours or whatever on the offset, it would probably be way too smoky, but that's just some good food right there. Brooke.
Yes.
Can I interest you in some pulled pork and or pulled pork sandwich and or coleslaw?
Yes. Okay. Is this on the pellet grill? Oh, okay. It was perfect. I haven't had a PP sando in a while.
I know. I was just thinking that. It's been a minute since I had just a straight up barbecue sandwich.
Wait, where's Lauren?
She's probably hiding in the bushes.
This is delicious.
Not bad, right?
No.
And it only took me 18 hours to cook.
What? Oh, no.
People complain about barbecue taking forever, but I was asleep for half the cook, and then I did nothing.
Yeah. So this is a set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put this on at midnight last night.
This is delicious.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. It's kind of reminding me of the ones from Friedman's.
Yeah, the sauce I made is very Friedman's-esque. Didn't put fish sauce in it, though.
Fine by me. That's perfect.
Nothing to complain about.
I could use a pickle.
I was going to ask you about that, because all day, literally, I had nothing to do, so I was just pacing around wondering if I should put pickles on this. But it's got an acidic sauce in the pork,
Yeah.
and then the coleslaw has got some acidity to it as well. So I figured we could be all right without the pickle, but can't ever hurt. Luckily, adding pickles to things is real easy to do. How's the slaw?
I was just going to say this sauce is good. Creamy.
Creamy. Oh, that's what a pulled pork sandwich needs. Mayonnaise.
No, but it adds that crunch that I need.
Yeah, I like it. Well, before I go ahead and devour an entire other sandwich, I think it's time for the official taste test. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make some absolutely fantastic smoky pulled pork on a pellet grill. I highly recommend giving this one a try. If you've got a pellet grill and you haven't thrown a pork butt on it, you're definitely missing out, because it's a super easy cook, although it did take a while. But I think with some minor tweaking, we could really shave a bunch of hours off of this thing and make the cook a lot easier. If I did this again, I'd probably start it out at 200 degrees overnight, and then first thing in the morning when I wake up, bump it up to 225, 250, and that would get you closer to that 8-9 hour mark. But then again, it's hard to argue with the results, because pork was smoky, it was tender, nothing to complain about. And I'm glad to have a bunch of it on hand. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you do give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace!